Welcome to the island. I'm your host, Albus Samuel, and today we are going to go ahead and jump into this wealth transfer talk because everyone seems to be jumping into this from your favorite podcasters to your favorite ministers. They're all talking about this. However, I just want to take a step back and go and see what they're all talking about. And when I do this, I'm actually going to tell you and elaborate to you in a shortened, condensed version of the entire story. Because the story that they are all, and I mean they are all using, is the story of Israel when they left Egypt. When they left Egypt, they were given gold and silver and all of these things on for their way when they were pushed out of Egypt because Moses and the Pharaoh, head to head combatant fights that they were going at. And by Moses and Pharaoh, it's really God versus these false gods of Egypt, of ancient Egypt. So, what happened and how did this wealth transfer actually happen? Because if we are going to say a wealth transfer is going to happen and it's going to be like this, then we actually need to know the entire story. So we all know the story of Moses in Egypt and the plagues that were rained down upon Egypt to force Pharaoh's hand to finally say, "Go ahead, leave." Every time Moses said, "Pharaoh, let my people go," and Pharaoh basically sometimes he would say, "Okay, yeah, sure, you can go on this time," and then he would say, "Nah, I changed my mind. You can't go." And then a plague would happen, and then Pharaoh would say, "Moses, pray for me. Go pray for me, and then y'all can leave." And that's exactly what Moses would do. He would go intercede for Pharaoh, and God would bring his judgment hand back. And then once the plagues would stop, then Pharaoh would come back and say, "I changed my mind. Y'all are not going anywhere." All the way up until the death angel. It was darkness all along the land of Egypt, everywhere. And I mean everywhere. However, not in this one spot. This is the land of Goshen. However, when the death angel came, even in the land of Goshen, they still had to do this exact very thing. And that is sacrifice a lamb, put the blood of the lamb upon your doorpost of your front door, all on the doorpost, and even in your, if you had a living room, the post of the living room. See, I think people miss that part, but that's okay. That's all right. And they would paint their posts of their homes with this blood so that when the death angel came, he would not go into this house and kill the firstborn. And it didn't matter, firstborn child, firstborn cattle, firstborn horse, it did not matter. As long as it was the firstborn, their time was up. Unless this sacrifice, lamb's blood, was on the doorpost. The death angel saw it. The death angel said, "I will not enter," and he would move on. That is exactly what happened. And when this was happening, darkness fell, and a cry, a horrific cry, was heard all throughout Egypt because everybody was awakened, of children and animals and cattle and you name it. Everyone was wakened by the death of someone or something other than the ones who had the blood of the lamb on their doorposts. Even in Pharaoh's house, his own child died. And in this cry, the people cried back to Pharaoh saying, "Get them out of here. We do not want them in Egypt at all. They brought this upon us. Get them out of here. Our children have died. Our cattle, they're dead. Everything is dying. Get them out. And so that's exactly what Pharaoh ended up doing. He said, y'all get out of here. And as they were leaving, this is the children of not Egypt, this is the children of Israel. As they were leaving, the citizens of Egypt was giving them gold and silver so they can leave and prosper on their way to wherever they wanted to go, wherever they were headed. At this time, they were going to the land of Canaan, but the people in Egypt, they didn't care. They just said, get out of here, and here is money. Here is some wealth for you for your way out. So at the very least, we would be safe from any other attacks that might be coming from y'all's hand, as in what Moses and Pharaoh was doing. Like how I said it earlier, Pharaoh would ask Moses, say a prayer for me. Moses would. God will relent. And then Pharaoh would fall right back into what he was doing. This is what the people were doing. They didn't relent, though. They gave their money. They gave gold. They gave silver as they were going. Some probably was even throwing it at them. Like, get out, go. We don't want you here. That was the wealth transfer. But the story doesn't end there. You see, what brought on this wealth transfer was a catastrophe, death itself. That's how the wealth transfer started, with death. So if all of these people are right, and all of these people are saying they're hearing from God about this wealth transfer, and if God is telling them, know the story of Moses and know the story of Pharaoh because this is how it's going to happen, then understand we must know the very beginning of it. A catastrophe. Death itself swept through the entire land. Those who heard and acknowledged God and did exactly what God said for them to do, they obeyed his voice. The catastrophe, the danger, death itself went right past them. It did not touch them. Those who disobeyed, death jumped on them. This was the beginning of the wealth transfer. Catastrophe. That started the entire thing. And then the wealth transfer happened. And it happened quickly. It did not take a few days. It did not take a few weeks. It didn't take a few months. It took one night. One single night. That's how it took. That's how it went. It didn't take long. It happened overnight just like that. They were pushed out so fast that whatever they could grab on their way out, that's what they grabbed. They didn't have a lot. Some were told, pack now, pack your things, because once this is done, we are leaving. So some obeyed even that. Some did not. So when they were pushed out and the money was thrown at them, they had to go fast. So it took one night. One night. A catastrophe. Right after the catastrophe, the wealth transfer. And it didn't last long. It did not last long at all. What happened right after that? We all know about the splitting of the river, of the sea. Sorry, I said river, of the sea, the splitting of the sea. We all know about the splitting of the sea. Pharaoh's army follows Israel. Pharaoh's army gets drowned out by the sea. On the other side of that sea, they were set free and they still had all of this gold and all of this silver. What did the people do who obeyed the voice of God before the sea? But then after the sea, what did those same people do? Moses went up Mount Sinai to talk to God for 40 days. 40 days, 40 nights, he was up there talking to God. These people down here with all of this gold, what did they do with it? They squandered it. They made an idol. They made the golden bull. And Moses comes down, seeing this golden bull. They took all of that gold that was transferred over to them, and they melted it and made a golden bull. Moses comes down, sees it. He's holding the Ten Commandments, gets angry, throws the Ten Commandments at him. It breaks in half. And what happens? The earth quakes. The crust of the earth opens up. The bull falls in with some of these people. They squandered the blessing that God himself gave them. He gave it to them very, very quickly. And then the earth stops quaking. The crust of the earth shuts. And the people who fell in, well, they're no more. That bull, yeah, that's gone too. Gone. Understand that. Actually, if I'm not mistaken, Moses got so angry, I need to go back and look at all of this, but I believe he turned that thing into dust and made them drink it, mixed it in with their water. They drank it. So that wealth transfer was squandered, gone. Just like that. Now, did all of their gold and all of their silver, did they give it all to this bull? No, I'm pretty sure no, because later on they made things that had gold inside of it. So they didn't put all of it in there. Those who did not want to be intertwined with this thing. So now let's put all of this in perspective. Starting with the beginning of this wealth transfer, a catastrophe. Death, things die, people died, a catastrophe. And then a push, an exodus, a push of the people who listened to God. They were told to leave God's people. And in the midst of this exodus, the money was given to them. The gold was given to them in one night. And then it was over. And then later on, with that same money, it was squandered to make an idol. And then that same idol gets destroyed. Now, let's put this in today's language. If this happens and we're basing this wealth transfer in today's modern time and we're basing it off of what happened in the Bible when it came to the children of Israel and Moses and Pharaoh and that type of wealth transfer, then we are looking at the very beginning of it and we are seeing that there's going to be a catastrophe. There is going to be something, if not a lot of some things, even people that will die, that will see the end of their life. Hopefully, it's not a lot of people. Hopefully, there's no people. Hopefully, it's just things, material things that just goes. But if we're talking like that, then I am seeing and I am sensing that that would actually in itself be the economy. Would the economy crash and die? I'm not saying it is. I'm not saying it's not. What I am saying is that if we are basing today's time to the story of Moses and that type of wealth transfer, then that would mean that something like the economy is going to crash and burn. It's going to die. A Great Depression, even greater than the one before. Let that sink in. That's what happened. The Great Depression happened right before World War II. Could that come around again? I'm not talking about World War II. I'm talking about a crash and a destruction of the economy, the death of the United States dollar. Now, with that even being said, that wouldn't be the end of the story, because if that happens, then there's going to be a mass exodus. Maybe people jumping out of the United States dollar, jumping out of investing in the United States dollar and going into something else. That's maybe. I'm not saying it is. I'm not saying it's not. But what I am saying is there would be some sort of mass exodus out of something after the death of whatever happens. And those who left, they would be the ones that got this wealth transfer. They were watching, they were seeing, they were obeying the voice of God. And because of that, they received the transfer of wealth. But the story doesn't end there. Because the very next thing, not the very next thing, but the next thing that is connected to this wealth transfer was the squandering of the wealth. That's what the people of Israel ended up doing. They squandered it. They made it into an idol. They began to worship the wealth that was handed over to them so that they could survive this pilgrimage into the promised land. Do you see this? But instead, they used it to make an idol to worship, because the man of God, Moses, went to talk to God, and they decided, we're going to worship a bull of gold. And that's what we're going to do. We're going to worship this bull of gold that we made, because we don't know if Moses is dead or alive. We just know he went up into this mountain. We see all this thunder and lightning, and he might have got struck. He might be dead. The mountain's on fire. We don't know what's going on up there. So he's probably dead. So we're going to make a bull out of the wealth that God handed to us when we left. They squandered it. And in the end, because of that squandering, they died. Basically, that entire generation ended up dead. Some died then, some died later, some died, even Moses, right before they were able to enter into the promised land. You see, this is that generation that saw the mighty hand of God, saw the miracles of God for their eyes themselves. They saw it. They weren't told these things, but they actually saw the mighty hand of God from beginning to the end. And they still refuse to give in 100% to God. Even after everything he showed them. So, if we're going to take this whole story, that would be the whole story of the wealth transfer. Catastrophe, being pushed out. One night, here you go. You only got this night to do it, to get it, because you're leaving now. And then the squandering of the wealth. And those who squandered it died. That is the whole story of the wealth transfer. Like I said, I'm going to just condense it a little bit and go through it so we're not reading a bunch of chapters. You can start this in the book of Exodus, because it's in the book of Exodus, obviously. And you can read it all the way through, all the way through, all the way until you get to the book of Joshua. So that's Exodus, Deuteronomy, and Joshua. That's the books right there, if you want to read all three of them. Because there's also something that gets tied into this. There's a lot of things, again, there's stories that people just don't want to tell the entire story of from beginning to end. They just want to say, God is going to bless you. God is going to give you what you are wanting, what you are seeking, what you are desiring, as long as you are obeying His voice and doing His will. And yes, God will bless you. But here's a caveat to all of that. You see, once God blesses you, once He blesses you, you must start obeying His voice. You must start doing what God is telling you to do. He will continue to bless you. You start doing that, He will bless you in the very beginning, and He'll bless you continuously as long as you're listening to His voice, not just listening, but obeying and doing what He's telling you to do. Now, that is all everyone's telling you. That is all of these people will say to you. I am here to tell you the entire story. Because there's another half to this. The other half to this is the cursed side. See, God's going to bless you. Yes, He wants to. And if you, like I said, obey Him, He will continue to bless you. However, if you decide especially after He blesses you, that you're going to turn your back from Him and just do whatever it is that you want to do, then He's going to curse you. Disease, sickness, plagues. You'll lose everything, all of your money. You'll lose it all. All the way up, even unto death. All because you decided to turn away from God and squander the blessing that He has given you. You see, there's two sides to this coin. You want to be blessed? We all do. We all want to be blessed. God will bless you. Then you have to obey His voice, and then He will continue to bless you. It's like the one who's getting demons casted out of them. Jesus cast out a demon. Demons are getting cast out of a person. And Jesus says, their house is now clean. But because they did not fill themselves with the Word of God and the Holy Spirit, their house was clean but empty. And these same demons will eventually come back. And they will see a clean and empty vessel. And that same demon will take off and get his buddies. Say, hey, this person that I was just in, yeah, I got kicked out, but it's still empty. And it's now clean, so now there's even more room. Not just for me, but for all of my buddies. He brings 7 other demons with him. And now that person is even worse off than they were when they only had the one demon inside of them. They squandered that deliverance. They squandered a blessing. Do you see now the other side to this coin? It's not just good enough to say, I want to be blessed, because you will be blessed. God will do that for you. But you better not squander what he gives you, because if you do, then you will be completely worse off than you were before. This is the entire story that I just told you. So let's look at this again. If all of these people, all of these so-called ministers of some sort, if they are all right and they are all correct in this wealth transfer, I'm not here trying to scare anyone. That's not what I'm trying to do. But what I'm trying to do is wake you up and tell you to open your Bible and read this stuff for yourselves, so that you do not fall to the other side of this coin. Again, if they are all correct on this, a catastrophe of massive proportion is coming to this country. There will be a wealth transfer. People will be blessed during this catastrophe. It will happen. However, once this takes place and you decide to squander this blessing from God during a catastrophe, just ask yourselves, how much worse will it get for me if I squander what God gave me in one night?